Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger, and they will rejoice when I am exalted.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Katherine Albrecht having sound problems. And I don't know why. All right, the sound coming in on my end is not coming through my correct device. We are still trying to figure out the current version of the studio. I believe, if I am correct here, that we are streaming live on YouTube also. So you can check with me there. And I do have all of my message windows up and open so I can hear from let's see, I got KHNC, I got JD there. I've got Peter running the board in the background here. So, and I also have my Katherine-Albrecht chat open, and I have the YouTube chat open. So if someone in one of those four channels could just let me know that my sound quality is actually working correctly, that would be amazing, because I can't tell. Okay. All right, super. Yes, I am. All right, perfect. So today's Thursday. And I want to, I was thinking a little bit about the show that I did yesterday, and I was realizing there were a couple of pieces that I just wanted to finish and clarify on the topic yesterday. And then I had said yesterday that I was going to be talking about how to respond to digital ID requirements in light of our responsibility as Christians to not take the mark of the beast and to not participate in the beast system. As I've said many times, come out of her, my people, touch no unclean thing is one of our marching orders at this point in time as Christians. And so what do we do in light of things that we are being told, commanded, right, by law to do that are not maybe stops along the train route that are leading us to a bad place? All right, so I want to address both of those. Let me start by just clarifying something I had said yesterday. So yesterday I was talking about being in Manhattan at a 9/11 Truth event, and people in our group were handing out flyers and trying to wake up the public to some truths, some things that were demonstrably false in the official story that we were being told. And on the way back, I sat next to, on the train, a woman from Poland and said, how is it for you when everybody knew that your government was corrupt and doing the wrong thing? She said, well, we all knew, but if anything, it put us in more danger because we couldn't talk about it. Because the government, if you talked about what they were doing, well, they'd just disappear you. You would just be, in the middle of the night, thrown into a gulag or executed or just disappeared. And so I was saying yesterday that I would far rather live in a country where if there are corruptions to be happening, that the people at the top, the people in the media, the people in the public, the leadership is all saying, oh no, we always do the right thing. We believe in values of honesty and honor and no corruption and no theft and everything's above board. I'd rather live in a country like that where that was happening and there was still corruption going on behind the scenes, so that if the corruption was ever fully exposed and couldn't be denied, then those people would be punished, than to live in something like Poland under the Soviets, where you knew that your government was doing the wrong thing and they didn't care, and everybody knew it, and there was not even a pretense of doing the right thing. What I didn't clarify, and the one part that I was thinking back on that conversation, I left out a couple important pieces. One of them was that I had said to the man who was handing out the flyers, what are you going to do, it's Sunday, what are you going to do tomorrow? You're going to get on a plane, fly back, go to work? My question, the reason I asked him that was I was saying, well, so you know the truth. You know these things that you want everybody else to realize. How is it affecting you? What are you doing? Well, clearly you're here distributing flyers. You're here participating in this event. You are contributing time and effort into making people aware of these things. That's great. But at the end of the day, you're going to hop on a plane, go home and live your life because we have to. And if you wake up other people to this reality, they'll probably do the same thing. They will just continue walking down the streets of Manhattan and getting on the subway and going to work and school and living their lives. But the thing I wanted to clarify that occurred to me that I had not fully finished my conversation yesterday is that we have an obligation to wake people up. I was not trying to make, and I think you could come away with the impression that I was. So I just want to clarify. I was not trying to say that that man, and indeed that entire group of 9/11 activists, really truth activists, was doing the wrong thing. I think it is the right thing. But you're never going to get 100% of people to believe the truth, even if you show it to them, even if you say, hey, there's gravity, watch, I drop this pencil, it falls, okay? You can have incontrovertible truth that a particular thing is true. And there will always be a portion, a percentage of society, a part of the population, who will say, wait a minute, but that authority over there says that that is not gravity, that is, who knows? Gravity schmravity. I am going to go with their opinion. Here's the important part of that conversation. You need to tell the truth. You need to hold out the flyers. You need to say, hey guys, look at the truth. Here's the truth. And you need to also accept that there will be certain people who will not believe the truth, even if you show it to them, even if they can see it, even if they know it's true. They can't know it's true. They can't accept. They won't be able to repeat the truth. They will, I don't know how these people think, or but they're always just like the poor will always be with you, said our Lord. You'll always have the poor with you. It seems to me, just in my observation of society, you will always have the people who will ignore the evidence in front of their very noses. And no matter what the prevailing viewpoint is of the authorities in charge, they will simply repeat that. And you cannot budge them. They won't listen to reason. They cannot be convinced otherwise. Okay, so from the conversation I had yesterday, I want to say that's a good thing. How can that be good? It's a good thing because if you could convince 100% of people in Manhattan and across the country that there was a certain level of corruption going on, the response of the people in charge would not be to correct the corruption. The response would be to say, okay, all right, the mask is off. All right, you all know what we are. Well, we're just going to be that, and there's no more pretense, and here you go. Here's the bad stuff. So I think we have an obligation, truly an obligation, to tell the truth as we know it. We have an obligation to tell the truth and let people know what the truth is. And then so it's in the Bible. It says, let he who has an ear hear. What does that mean? Let he who has an ear hear means that not everybody has an ear. There are actually people, you can speak, and if there's no opening in their ears, and they don't even have ears, there's no ears, just a skull closed off, they won't hear you. So there's a difference between people who have an ear and people who don't. Otherwise, our Lord would not have said, let he who has an ear hear. So for us, we don't know who has an ear and who doesn't. I don't know. People tune into this radio program. If they have an ear, and if I'm saying something truthful and they hear it, then it'll go in and they'll hear it, right? But if somebody doesn't have an ear, they're not going to hear it. And we are not to be frustrated. We are not to be angry. We are not to be discouraged or disheartened when people do not have ears and we speak to them and they do not hear us. Because on some level, that very phenomenon is a part of the whole picture, crazy as it seems. Because if everybody knew the truth would not change the corruption. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. If everybody knew the true truth, if everybody knew and believed the actual truth, that virtue is the way and goodness is the way, then yeah, that would change things. But that's not going to happen in this lifetime. It's just not. All right. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that I did not mean to say, because as I went away, I thought, I wonder for that. I didn't mean to say that the man distributing the flyers with the facts about 9/11 was doing the wrong thing. I think he was absolutely doing the right thing. And I don't think there was any risk of him creating a situation like Poland where everyone suddenly, because of his flyers, was going to be aware of the corruption and cause the bad guys to take their masks off. That wasn't going to happen. All right, we're coming up on a break. Hopefully I can fix my audio problem because my audio from the show is not coming in my ear. It's coming in through like my monitor. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm glad you guys can hear me. All right, I'm going to be talking digital ID and our response as Christians next. Stay tuned.
Why are most
most email programs free.
I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. I knew you. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Before you were born, I set you apart. I set you apart. Don't be afraid of the people, for I will be with you. Don't be afraid of the people, for I will protect you. I've put my words in your mouth. I have put my words in your mouth. Look, what do you see? I see a branch from an almond tree. Good eyes, I'm sticking with you. I'll make every word I give you come true. Today I've made you strong, like a fortified city. Today I've made you strong, like a concrete wall. They will fight you, but they will fail, for I am with you. They will fight you, but they will fail, for I am with you. They will fight you, but they will fail, for I am with you, and I will take care of you.
Okay, well, I don't know what I did. I think I made it worse. No, I don't have any audio at all. Not just through my monitor, but not at all. I'm going to once again rely on people who are in my multiple text windows to let me know if you can hear me, see me, and if everything's good on your end. I'm good on my end. Even though I can hear nothing, so I'm just going to assume. Yeah. So, JD, if you would be kind enough to just shoot me a little text when it's time for the break, because I can't hear any audio. I think I made a mistake. All right. Can you guys hear me? Can everybody hear me? Hello, hello. If you can let me know. Am I here? I'm looking. We can see you. Can you hear me? I see Stacy Lynn. We saw the video. Great. Can you hear me? Anybody hear what I'm saying? Can you hear me? Hello. I don't know. Can people hear me? I think they cannot. Anybody hear me? Can you hear me? I'm so sorry. Well, I don't want to continue speaking if I can't be heard. All right, good. I just got a message back. I'm fine. All right, I can hear nothing. So when it comes time for the break and the music comes up on KHNC, somebody just shoot me like a heads up and let me know. All right, so I wanted to talk about the Real ID situation. We know that in Vietnam, I've talked about it a couple of times on the show, that in Vietnam, trying to reach my phone. I'm just going to keep going. In Vietnam, the government has put in place a biometric requirement for people to have both a digital ID and to submit their biometrics in order to have a bank account, and not just start a new bank account, but literally keep the bank account that they already have, keep the funds in it. For some people, this is their life savings that is in a bank in Vietnam, and unless they can submit this digital information, or are willing, I suppose, to submit it, then they'll lose the money, they'll lose the account, they'll lose all of it. In London, in England, there are protests in the streets right now because of requirements for a digital ID. In California, they just the governor just signed legislation into law saying that in order to go on the internet, you have to provide evidence of your age. Now, how are you going to prove your age? It's not just going to be that little, I certify that I'm over 18, because anybody could check that. They're actually going to be requiring ID documents to be submitted to verify that you're the age that you claim you are. And of course, once you submit ID documents to verify your age, well, then now they know other things about you as well. And as those ID documents become more and more onerous, the burdens on them, the fingerprint and iris scan and, not only height and weight and address, but other things as well, like they do in China. In China, they've got in your digital ID, in your dossier of information about you held by the Chinese government, they not only have all of that information, but they also know where you went to school and what kind of grades you got, and what your voting history is, how loyal you are to the government. So we can see a pattern. Let me just say that, without going into lots of details about these individual things, we can see a pattern. There's something happening that is coming forward, and I've talked before about us all being on a train. It's a train that's just barreling along and seems to be headed straight for the mark of the beast. And if you want to do that as a Christian, you can talk about the last book in the Bible, the book of Revelation. Talks about a time when people will not be able to buy or sell unless they have a mark and a number on their right hand or on their forehead, without which they won't be able to buy or sell and presumably really do much of anything else. And we are told as Christians not to take the mark of the beast, because those who do will be punished and will not receive eternal life. In fact, won't even be able to repent of their sins, like every sinner for all of history has always been able to do. So there's something about doing that that's going to be kind of the end of the line for people. So here we are, we're on the train. The train is barreling down the tracks in so many different ways towards the mark of the beast. And I've been watching this since the 1970s. We've gotten the barcodes, which enabled computers to keep track of the things that we buy and sell. We've gotten, back in the 1930s, of course I wasn't alive then, but that generation was very concerned about Social Security numbers, giving unique ID numbers to every single person in a government database, just even giving people numbers at all. They were really freaked out, and they said, don't do it. It's going to lead to the mark of the beast. People said, oh, come on, you were wrong. You were all worried about that. Look, it wasn't the mark of the beast. And if you go to my website, Katherine-Albrecht.com, I think it's right on the homepage, at the bottom of the homepage is my blog entry that says, are we there yet? And it talks about the fact that we should not ridicule members of previous generations for rightly pointing out to us the different stops along the train that were leading to a bad outcome and the wrong destination that were leading towards the mark of the beast. So you could also say that, there's many, many things included along there. I'm not a big fan of the Apple Watch. I'm not a big fan of having something on your right wrist that has a number in it that you can just wave and swipe to make a payment. All right, that seems to me to be a little close, but it's not. All right, so here's the question about the mark of the beast. If you read Revelation 13, where it talks about the mark of the beast, you'll see that it's not just taking the mark. It is also worshiping the beast and his image. So the beast will require every person on earth, great and small, free and bond, which means slave, rich and poor, every person. So every person, let's go through that, rich and poor. So that would be Jeff Bezos. That would be the homeless guy under a bridge. Every person, great and small, that would be, presidents and kings, all the way down to children, potentially. All people free and bond. That would be people who are free and people who are enslaved in one way or another. But I think that means actually enslaved, in bondage, or in jail, right? All people will be forced to get that mark and that number. They will be forced by the beast to get that mark and their number. And if you read Revelation carefully, you'll see there's two beasts. There's one that comes out of the land and one that comes out of the sea. I think for purposes of simplicity, people don't call it the mark of the beasts, right? It's the mark of the beast. It's the same general concept. But those two beasts, the one that comes out of the land and the one that comes out of the sea, will be a religious leader who will demand worship and a political leader who will have the political clout to demand that everyone worship the religious the religious beast. But in some, it's a big thing that's going to say, here at gunpoint or at threat of guillotine, beheading, you must worship this thing. And once you worship it, the symbol or the reward, quote unquote, that you'll get for worshiping it is going to be the required mark on your right hand or your forehead, the 666, that will do two things. Number one, it's going to enable you to buy or sell, because we know without it you can't. But secondly, it's going to be the symbol of your compliance, of your, not you, because we're not going to do it. It will be the symbol of a person. Anyone who takes that mark the mark itself will symbolize that they have worshiped, chosen to worship, stated their obedience to, their submission to the beast. And we know from Revelation, also just from common sense, the beast is the spirit of evil. It's the spirit of the devil. So people have asked, because I've talked about this for years, and people have called into shows and emailed me and said, what if I go to the dentist and they have me on laughing gas, and while I'm on laughing gas, when I'm not looking, they just put it on my hand. Am I toast? What happens if I go out if I'm in a car accident and I wake up and I see it? What happens if I have surgery and I'm under anesthesia? I wake up and it's there. Am I then damned, basically? Have I then committed the ultimate sin of taking the mark of the beast? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because there are two pieces to it, two components to it. Taking the mark, but more importantly, the symbolic meaning of your doing that, which means worshiping the beast and basically denying Jesus Christ. We know that people who refuse to take the mark of the beast will be beheaded for the testimony of Christ. So I think the only reason that anyone is going to not take the mark of the beast is for the testimony of Christ, because I think that's really the only way you're going to have the strength and the preparation in advance to be able to say no to this thing. Now, with that said, what happens when the train stops somewhere and you can clearly see the end point of the mark of the beast in sight, but you're not at that station yet? That would be this form of digital ID. That would be, who knows what they're going to require of us between now and there. But you see it coming and you say to yourself, is it time to get off the train yet? Well, I think it's definitely time to warn society that this train needs to go on a different path. But we know that everything written in Scripture is going to happen. It's all prophesied. It's been happening exactly the way it was prophesied, every single step of it, bit by bit by bit. The recreation of Israel as a nation, the gathering of the Jewish people from around the globe, all of that, it's all predicted. And even the fact that we're now to a point where we're buying and selling with numbers. We're doing it every time you use a credit card. Every time you swipe a payment wristband, you're paying with a number. So we're already doing those things that were inconceivable even when I was a kid. Right? We're here. We have a lot of the pieces. At what point do we get off of the train? And I believe that each individual has to follow their conscience with regard to that. But if we are the rescue crew and we jump off the train now, who is going to tell the people to jump off the train when the actual time comes? So the long and the short of it, and this is something I've been wrestling with for a long time, will I be taking a digital ID that requires an iris scan and fingerprints and a blood sample and DNA and who knows what? I probably will. But I will do it very consciously, and I will do it very prayerfully, and I will be asking for protection through that process. The reason I will do it is because it is not itself disobedient to the Lord. It is not itself denying him. It is not worshiping the beast. It is not in any way praising or agreeing to go along with the beast. I will continue to my dying breath, Lord willing, to speak out against those things. and to warn others about them. But if I decide to not have a phone, if I decide to not drive a car, if I decide to no longer use computers or the internet, then I wouldn't be here right now having this conversation with you. So the Lord says what you intended for evil, meaning Joseph said this to his brothers, but essentially Jesus is saying this to the devil. What you intended for evil, I've turned for good. All right, I'm looking at the clock. I cannot hear a thing. I'm assuming that I don't know. There's a lag. Hopefully, JD. Yeah, I have a feeling I'm coming up on a break. If I'm not, I'm just going to ask you to enjoy the music that I'm going to play for the YouTube people. And as I try to figure this out, I will be back. gosh, now there you go, microphone. Even though I figured out pretty much how to run this equipment, I have not yet entirely figured out how to flip back and forth. So working on that. Apology there for the sound. I have my little X here. All right, I haven't said anything super important. Don't worry, you didn't miss anything. In the background, by the way, behind this shoulder, is my start mill sign. Let me show you for people who are on YouTube. Is this cool? AI, here, let me hold it up. There we go. AI. Hang on. Radio people are like, what is she doing? I am holding up my my sign. There we go. AI free email. You can trust Start Mail. I encourage people who've not yet gotten a Start Mail account to use the coupon code KMA to save $20 off and get yourself a Start Mail account. Start Mail, of course, is sponsoring this radio program and this podcast studio and pretty much everything I've been doing. Start Mail is the company that back in 2012 was a gleam in our eye. I was on the executive team that created Start Mail, so I watched it, participated in the building of it from the ground up. Little did I know that we would reach a time like today, years after 2012, 13 years later, when all of the other email programs that people have been using for free, they're not really free, but the Gmails and the Yahoos and the Apple Mails would all be funneling all of your messages in and out into AI, into the global brain. So there's going to come a time when, going back to Revelation, that how are you going to make sure that all people, great and small, free and bond, rich and poor, are going to, how are you even going to keep an eye on them to make sure that you punish them if they don't take the mark of the beast? Well, you're going to keep an eye on them by knowing who everybody is and knowing their names and where they live and having just omniscient view of them at all times, knowing what their faces look like, watching them on cameras, knowing where they go, tracking their cars, etc. So the notion that we would have no way to communicate amongst ourselves, amongst each other, that AI was not watching is really disturbing. And this is why I'm so excited that, so grateful, I guess. I'm so grateful that the Lord saw this coming back in 2012 and said, I better have that in place and ready for when the time comes. And then how just wonderful that I was aware of the AI thing, and then I was involved on the ground floor of this, so I can vouch for it. I know the people who run it. I talk to them every week, talk to them all the time. I've known them for years. It's so good. So good. So anyway, startmail.com. If you have not yet gotten an account, if you have not yet felt a need to get an account, I want you to start paying attention, because as we move further and further and further down this road, it's going to become more and more and more important that we have a way to protect our communication. And the exciting thing, we're actually working behind the scenes to expand beyond just email, to have, I have every confidence this will happen, that we will be able to do crowdfunding and get the money to put together not only private email, but private chat, private file sharing. And when I say private, encrypted to where even if you're ISP, even if you're with, Comcast or Xfinity or whoever you're with, that even your ISP, if they're feeding everything into AI, which is going to happen, they won't be able to feed the Start Mail messages into there because they'll be encrypted. They are encrypted. You can encrypt them. And so your ISP can be on board, pretty much everybody could be on board, and provided that we can still use Start Mail to encrypt messages and send them back and forth, we will have a private way of communicating. So we are working behind the scenes to build a private communications community so that we will have essentially a kind of a second internet, I suppose, kind of a behind the scenes community that does not use all of the tools by the big guys who are all invested in AI and invested in making sure that AI knows everything about us. All right, let me get back to what I was talking about before, when to get off the train. So some people got off the train a long time ago. right? The Amish got off the train way back when. They saw this coming. The train stop, when the train stopped at electricity and electric lights and cars. The Amish at that point were doing the same thing that I was doing over RFID, or people were doing in the 70s over barcodes, or in the 30s over social security numbers. They said, this is not good. It's anti-human, and it's not going to end well. Now, to my knowledge, maybe somebody out there knows more about the Amish than I do. To my knowledge, they did not say this is going to lead to the mark of the beast. We're getting off the train now. I don't believe that's the reason they did it. It'd be interesting if anybody knows the Amish viewpoint on Revelation and what that mark is going to be and how they view it. But I do know that they made a decision to get off the train of technology at the point that they did. Now, it's interesting, back in 2009, when smartphones first came out, when mobile phones for the iPhone first came out, I made a decision, I myself personally, your radio host here, to not get one. I said, I'm good with a flip phone. I don't want that. I can see it's making people addicted. I can see that it's being used as a tracking device. I see a lot of problems with it. I'm not going to get it. And I held on to that promise probably until about 2017, 18. I really did with both hands. I'm not going to do it, not going to do it. And eventually I found that not having a smartphone was a huge, huge handicap in life, because as everybody else got on board and embraced it, I was not able to sign up for certain things. I was not able to do a lot of basic things because they required me to use my phone. I didn't have any choice. They required. So at that point, I had an option of either drop out completely, drop out of society, and I have friends who've done that, or to take a deep breath, pray for the Lord to protect me, and say, all right, I'm going to get the phone. And I did it, and here it is. So I have a phone. Now, having gotten a phone, I can now, even my kids would have like a sports event, and I literally couldn't give $5 to the person at the door to go into the darn sports event. They wouldn't take it. I would have to sit outside. Go in the app and pay your $5 through your credit card, right? So if I didn't have a credit card, if I didn't have a phone, then I wouldn't be going to those sporting events. And the list went on and on. I mean, there were hundreds of examples of places where I couldn't do things. It got to the point where, because there's no more phone books, right? People old enough to remember the white pages and the yellow pages. I used to be, or there was no longer information. You could just dial 411 and they would ask for a phone number and you'd get it. Now everything's on the phone. And if you only have a flip phone, you don't even know the number to call. You want to call the dentist. You have no way to get the phone number for the dentist. So what happens when these technologies come in is they change society in such a way that they make themselves indispensable. And this is what's going to happen with the mark of the beast. There is going to be, in that same way, a system where you just won't be able to get basic stuff done unless you have the thing on your hand or your forehead. By the way, let me talk about the forehead part. I used to go, why would I want it on my forehead? And then I realized, just because of working with the disabled community quite a bit growing up, there are people who don't have hands. They don't. They're in wheelchairs. And because of thalidomide or because of various accidents or genetic issues, they don't have hands, and they're in wheelchairs. And let's say I'm going through a turnstile. There's a place I can put my hand, but if I don't have a hand, I could put my head there, because my head, if I'm in a wheelchair, is about the level of my hand. And everybody's got a head. Even that guy, that Christian guy, he does a lot of conferences, and he has no limbs at all. He's just a torso and a head. He's got a head. He can talk. He was actually at, the Christian Broadcasters Conference I was at in February. He was, I don't know if he was there, but there was a booth of his information, his videos and things. So there are people who don't have hands, there are people who don't have feet, but there is nobody who doesn't have a head. So why would it be on the forehead? Because you can't put it on the hand. So 99.99% of people, however many, are going to get it on their hand. But if you don't have a hand, it's going to go on your forehead. So there won't be an excuse to not get it, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. It's not like they're going to say, oh, you don't have a hand, that's okay. You don't need to get it. No, because all people, rich and poor, free and bond, with hands and without hands, everybody is going to be forced to get this, except those who refuse to get it and are beheaded for the testimony of Jesus Christ. All right, coming up on a break. I can hear it. It's so good. I can hear the break. All right. Yeah, those of you in YouTube land, enjoy this music video that I'm about to play. All right, I'll be right back.
Oh, Israel, the one who formed you says, don't be afraid. Oh, Israel, the one who formed you says, don't be afraid. For I've ransomed you, I've called you by name. You are mine, you are mine. Oh, Israel, the one who formed you says, don't be afraid. Israel, the one who formed you says, don't be afraid. For I've ransomed you, I've called you by name. You are mine, you are mine. When you go through deep waters, I'll be with you. Rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned out. The flames won't consume you.
It is wonderful. All right, I'm back. Everything I think is working. A couple of comments here. By the way, I am able now, I think. Am I? Believe I am. I'm able. I believe I'm able to get your texts. Definitely able to get your phone calls because I have my little phone call window up here for the first time since I switched computers. So it's here. If you want to call in, 877-536-1360. Coming up in the end of the show. So if you want to call in, do it now and I'll get you on the air. We can talk. That is also the text number. And I have to admit that I thought I had it right here, but hang on. Let me double check. Where is that number? Hang on. No, that is not it. I had it. I know I had it. All right. Well, I don't have it. So don't text me at that number. You can go on to Katherine-Albrecht.com and text me. You can text me through YouTube. I'm able to see those, although I'm not they're not huge. They're little. So I got to kind of look and keep track of it. It's not like they come across like a bit. I wish they did. Wouldn't that be great if I had a big sign and it was right here and I could just see it? But I don't have that. But it's here. It's here. I can see it. I have a couple of comments that I want to address, actually, here in my Katherine-Albrecht.com chat room regarding the mark of the beast being on the forehead. So some people, Right? This is, again, my opinion, because I'm not, I don't know exactly what the Lord meant, so I'm not going to claim that I do. But let me tell you my sense of this. The mark on the right hand of the forehead, a lot of people, not a lot of people, some people have said that the mark on the right hand is actually a real mark. It's really a thing, and it's on, who knows, palm, back, I don't know where it is, but on the hand saying 666. The mark on the forehead, some people have said that that's in your mind, that's your thinking. Yeah. Let me tell you why I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that for a couple of reasons. One, because your thinking switches, doesn't it? One morning, 1 minute, you're completely faithful to the Lord. The next minute, maybe you're angry, maybe you're scared, maybe you're anxious, maybe you're deceived, maybe you're whatever. And like, change my mind. Okay. Just like I've told you, I'm always like, okay, humility and love. And then I get back in alignment with God. If in one of those moments, right, how are you going to take the mark of the beast, the 666, in your mind, in your forehead, in your mind, in a way that is going to be like damning you forever? I personally, I think it is an actual action. I think it is an actual, here I am. The line for beheading's over there, for Jesus Christ beheading. The line over here is to worship the beast and take his mark on your forehead because you don't have hands. That, I think, is the decision point. So it's not just a momentary fleeting thought of I think this or I think that. It's literally a decision that you're making involving your body. So I don't believe, personally, that having the mark on your forehead is thinking a certain way or having a certain set of beliefs or thoughts, because people do that all the time. I used to believe all kind of stupid stuff, and I've been forgiven for that and redeemed. And here I am proclaiming the truth of Jesus Christ. I just, I don't think having a false belief is going to be enough to take the mark of the beast. I think it's going to actually be taking the mark. The other thing is, in Scripture, the Lord is pretty clear about the heart and the mind. Pretty clear. If it was meant that you have, that you've taken the mark by believing it in your mind, we would be told that. By accepting it in your heart, that's the word he would have used. He would not have said your head, your forehead. I've never, anywhere in Scripture, seen the word forehead referring to a person's internal thought process. The forehead is a physical part of your actual body. It's right there. So is your hand. So I would have to look in to see who exactly holds that viewpoint. But, maybe like me, they were saying the right hand or the forehead. What does that even mean? Why would you have it in your forehead? Well, if you had not had my experience growing up of being around a lot of very physically disabled people, which I did have growing up. I've been around many, many disabled people at disabled schools. And I know that there are people without hands. There are people whose hands don't work. There are people whose hands are, gnarled and twisted, and they're not able to use them. And so for me, because of that background and that understanding, I was like, okay, well, they would have a head. So anyway, just thought I'd clarify that. I also have a message in from, let's see, I think Stacy wrote this in. Let me see. Here we go. Stacy wrote in and gave the name of the gentleman who does not have any limbs. He is Nick Vujicic. I need to make this a little bigger. It's very small. Nick Vujicic is the gentleman who does the motivational speaking, and he's a Christian. And if anybody had a testimony of the fact that it's not your appearance, it's not your the respect of other people. I mean, those are not the things that give you a good life. They're not the things that give you fulfillment. They're not the things that make you happy. They're not the things that give you true value in the world. If you don't even have arms or legs and you have just a torso and a head, this man is so full of energy, full of life, and he seems to be so incredibly happy. And that is a testament to what's inside, not what's on the outside. Our culture, especially with social media, everybody's so focused on appearance. Men have to be, strong and have muscles, and women have to, whatever. That's not where it's at. It's just not where it's at. So Nick Vu, I'll spell it Vujicic. Thank you, Stacy, for that. So, in sum, I also have wanted to jump off the train and say, not going to do that dumb cell phone. I am not going to carry a tracking device with me. I am not going to carry a device with me that links me into the global brain, connects me to every passing cell tower, and makes me a cell in the physical body of this thing that is being created. And yet, here I am with a phone. And the reason I have the phone, instead of going off and, I don't know, living in a cabin in the woods, is because there is work for me to do, and there is work for you to do. There is work for all of us to do still. We were put on this earth not to comply with all of its darkness. We were put on this earth not to completely just check out and go live in some, pure commune over here. Maybe some people are called to that. I don't know. I'm not. We were put here to be the salt and the light. We were put here to be the rescue team. So first we were put here without anything. We needed the rescue team, right? But once we got rescued and got on board that rescue team and became members of the body of Christ here on earth, parts of his body, then if he has a body here on earth, which he does, and that's us, it wouldn't be a very effective body for him to use to do his will on the earth if we were not able to interact with people who needed to hear it, who needed to be rescued. So I, for one, am going to, with my nose held and with lots of prayer for protection, I will be signing up and getting that awful thing. I'm going to wait until, not the awful thing not being the mark of the beast, the awful thing being the digital ID. I will do everything in my power to put it off as long as I can. And if the time comes where it's, well, Catherine, you either get the digital ID or you can't have a radio show anymore, you can't have an internet anymore, you can't drive a car anymore, but it's not taking the mark of the beast, you're not worshiping anything evil, you can continue to be a Christian. You can continue to espouse your views in public or in private. Maybe they won't even let me say I'm in public anymore. As long as I am still allowed to proclaim, if anyone asks me and anyone gives me an opportunity to proclaim who my Lord is and who the truth is, then yeah, I'll do that. So anyway, that's an answer, because I have had a lot of people writing saying, at what point do we say no? At what point do we not participate? And again, that's going to be up to your conscience. I think each individual has their own conscience with regard to that. For me, my conscience at that time was I just don't want this phone. I don't know if that was my conscience or just my personal desires. I don't know. But I do know that at the point at which I realized I could no longer be a functioning member of society unless I did it, at that point I prayed about it and I said, okay, I can safely do this. Now, how safely? I don't know. You guys, I've confessed to you guys that I got addicted to word games on my phone. I can't even count how many scores, hundreds of hours have gone down the drain playing Boggle and Scrabble and stupid stuff. I don't gamble. I don't really have any interest in pornography, but I certainly have a whole lot of compassion for those who do, because I understand what it's like to be enslaved, to have a thing that is just calling a siren call. I have not played a word game on my phone since the 1st of September. And now we're almost to, halfway through October. And every time I want to, and there have been times I've really wanted to, I've said, no, I'm going to do something else. And sometimes I just get up and go for a walk. Sometimes I just pet my cat. Like I have to consciously make a point of not doing it. And so if we have these tools in our lives, we have to figure out how to manage them and be obedient so that they don't suck us down the wrong road. And the other thing I'm going to say is touch no unclean thing. There's really nothing in a horror movie or pornography or nothing in those dark things interacting with AI that gives you any kind of that allows you to be on the rescue team at all. That's just touching an unclean thing. So there's a difference between getting an ID that authorities require of you and, I don't know, watching a horror movie. Okay, I think I said enough. All right, thank you so much for being with me. Thanks for your patience. I will see you guys tomorrow. God bless you. Bye-bye.